It is officially 12:02, so we're going to get started. Thank you everyone for joining. My name is Adrienne Esposito. I'm the Executive Director of Citizens Campaign for the Environment. I'm joined today with our colleagues at Yale School of Medicine, who we will be introducing in just one moment. 1,4-dioxane certainly is a hot topic. If you live on Long Island, coincidentally, you'll see it as the lead story, a 4-page story today in Newsday. We will also be talking about that in just a few moments. But this is an issue which began in 2019 when CCE independently tested 80 different products, common household products, and found large quantities of 1,4-dioxane in those products. Also, at the same time, what was happening was the EPA tested 4,400 water supply wells across the nation. Guess who was number one in the high levels of 1,4-dioxane? Yep, it was Long Island. This is a claim to fame we don't want. However, what we need is a lot more research, a lot more answers, and we know that the public has a lot of questions in this particular area. And we're hoping that the announcement today of a new health study that's being done by the Yale School of Medicine and the Superfund program at Yale will be able to give us some of those answers. So we're going to begin today. I'm going to introduce Vasilis. Vasilis, you're going to have to pronounce your last name because I might mispronounce it. And Vasilis has been a wonderful partner to work with, him and his whole team, Nicole and Barbara and others. And they have launched this project this year. They'll be launching it soon. And it is going to be funded by the National Institute of Health. It's the first of its kind study, we believe, anywhere in the nation. And it's going to be specific to us here on Long Island. So Vasilis, I'm handing it off to you.
Thank you very much. Before I show you the structure of our research enterprise on 1,4-dioxane, I should mention that I have partnered with Citizens Campaign since 2016. And when I saw their work on 1,4-dioxane in the Long Island, and that was another case that really strengthened my rationale to study this compound, this chemical, which is a probable carcinogen, as you read, and Adrienne will tell you. Anyway, to make a long story short, we're initiating now this community engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear what you want us to research, to address your concerns and everything. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to devote most of the time. I'm going to give the time to Adrienne and Nicole Diesel, my colleague here from Yale. One small correction, we're Yale School of Public Health. However, our program is based, when I developed this program, I engaged 4 schools, 4 Yale schools, namely the School of Public Health, the School of Medicine, the School of the Environment, and last but not least, actually the most, is our engineers from the Yale School of Engineering and Applied Sciences. So we put this proposal together. We had to fight for it. We finally got funded. As Adrienne said, this is the first of its kind in the nation. It's the first of its kind in Connecticut. It's the first of its kind at Yale, which is really focused on 1,4-dioxane. Before I'll tell you a few things more about it, I would like to tell you that in addition to personal care products, our state is an retired industrial state. So we had a lot of industries in here, and there have been a lot of sites where 1,4-dioxane has been identified in many Superfund sites. Well, one of the things I want to tell you is, in the past, 1,4-dioxane was used as a stabilizer for several organic solvents, such as trichloroethylene, dichloroethane, and tri and dichloroethane. So these are solvents, and the 1,4-dioxane has been identified as one of them finding in the same soil, in the same areas. This is not only in the state of Connecticut, this is not only in United States, this is also internationally. In Germany, in Spain, in Japan, they have identified these three chemicals together. One of the things that why was not mentioned much earlier, because we didn't know anything about it. It was not in the measures of the EPA for looking at this compound. Anyway, to make a long story short, as you can see, as you know, there is substantial evidence from mice that this chemical is a possible human carcinogen. And Nicole's group is trying to do the exposure assessment. It's not a full epidemiological study, but we're trying to address the importance of human exposures to this compound. So if I can share the screen. I just want to show you the structure of the center. And let me see if you can, no, that's not it, this one. Let me see if you see it. Do you see it? Is visible for everybody? Let me make it a
Yes,
little bit.
we can see it, Vasilis.
Okay, so as you can see, this is the structure of the center. I'm the director of the center. We have an executive steering committee, which is the core leader, the projects I will tell you later about what are these. We have an international advisory committee, and we have, I'm sorry, one internal advisory committee and an external advisory committee. So our program, our research infrastructure consists of an administrative core, which we oversee all the activities. So we have four course facilities in here, which four cores, I'm sorry, not facilities. So the one that we're talking about is community engagement core, and my colleagues Nicole Diesel and Adrienne Esposito lead that community engagement. And this is not only because of us, this is not only because of you, this is also from NIH. National Institute of Health now pays a lot of attention on the interaction between researchers and community. So this is why this is very important. Anyway, so this is, I would say, one of the most important courses in here. We have also a data analysis. All the experiments that I will do later, I will explain you, they're analyzed by our bioinformatics and people, and we're offering that. We also train new generation of scientists into this area. We want not only us, but we want to train students. We want to train the MPH, public health practitioners. That's going to work with Adrienne's, with everybody, and especially with all of you to identify, these needs. And our graduate program is based on School of Public Health and also, as I said, with engineers. So essentially, our research group is based on MPH and School of Medicine, and we have two biomedical projects. One project is we're looking into specific mechanisms. We know that this chemical is carcinogenic in mice. So what we're trying to find out now is what is the molecular mechanism, how this can be done, how this chemical can cause cancer. So these are studies, and not only for these chemicals, but we're also looking at the combination. We're living in times where we're exposed to multiple chemicals. So we're looking at 1.4 dioxane along with its co-contaminants on the mechanism. As I told you, the project 2, led by Nicole Diesel, which also is a co-leader of the citizens or the community engagement, is looking at essentially exposure assessment. As I told you, we don't have the budget to do a full epidemiological analysis, but this is the first of its kind. There is nothing in the literature that will do that. And as Adrienne said, who has one of the most highest exposures in the nation? It's the Long Island, and this is where this study is focused on. Needless to say, before I go to the engineers, that I have been participating in similar campaigns now with Ann Arbor, where they have a major issue with 1.4 dioxane. And I just got a phone call. I was interviewed with Florida, where they have also identified 1.4 dioxane. So what I'm trying to tell you that we have more and more incidents now that happen in all nations. And I don't know if you have attended the news. The water company of New Jersey, they realized, it was published about, I would say about a year ago, that in New Jersey, in public water, there are high levels of 1.4 dioxane as well. So it's not only in Long Island, but we have also New Jersey now into the game with 1.4 dioxane. So these two projects were looking at the mechanism and also human exposures. And the project 3 and 4 are on our engineers, which I can tell you, these are pioneers in their fields. So first, we try to identify, to detect, to develop sensors that they will check your waters, public waters, and we try to do that in real time. So if EPA is at the office, they could monitor their waters for the 1.4 dioxane and also this carcinogen. This is a major issue that goes worldwide, and especially in the era of the online, the real-time sensors, which is very important. The fourth, which is very important also, and we will also looking for some participation with you, not only in Project 2, but also in Project 4, are Jae-Hong Kim and his team in the School of Engineering. They trying to develop affordable methods for purifying your water from the 1.4 dioxane. One of the major issues of the 1.4 dioxane is its difficulty to be filtered. It's a small molecule, it's water soluble, it's almost not odorless, so it can go everywhere. It can penetrate the water tables and can go to your water, as you can see, and also you cannot filter it in your house. So there is one way that you can do it. You can do it with advanced osmosis, but this is, you're talking about thousands of dollars for each house to have this machine. So what we're trying to do in Project 4, they, Jae-Hong Kim and his team, they're trying to develop affordable devices using advanced oxidation treatment to free up your water from, from 1.4 dioxane. So in brief, this is what I had to tell you. This is, and I can be online later I'll be online all the time. Any questions that you have, but I would like to pass the microphone to Adrienne and Nicole, which they're going to lead the discussion. Let me stop sharing my screen.
We're going to do questions at the end, Dr. Vasilis.
Yes, I'm here.
All right, thank you. So we wanted to give everyone an idea of what Yale has been up to for the last several years. They really have been very innovative thinking, cutting edge, and really working to expand the science and the research and the database on 1,4-dioxane. So let me just tell you what it is before we go on to Nicole. Let me say also, for those of you who did see the Newsday article today, I thought it was a great article. I do see the reporter is on with us. So Lisa, thank you so much for doing such a great job. I know you worked really hard on that. I think it was very educational. And we certainly will be using it. So thank you for your hard work on that. It's appreciated.
Thanks,
1,4-dioxane. You're welcome. 1,4-dioxane is called the hidden carcinogen because we don't know where it is. Next slide. The reason we don't know where it is that it is not an ingredient. It is something that it develops as a byproduct of the manufacturing process. It is never found in nature. Nature does not make these things, but rather when a laundry detergent is mixed or a dish soap is mixed, it comes. So you don't know it's in the product. Some people say to us, well, I'll just read the label. That doesn't tell you what you need to know. And unfortunately, ignorance isn't bliss. Ignorance is dangerous. 1,4-dioxane is listed as a likely human carcinogen, has a lifetime cancer risk guideline for drinking water of 0.35 ppbs, parts per billion. That's how toxic it is, that it's measured in parts per billion. It has certainly been associated with kidney cancer, liver cancer, and nasal cavity cancer as well. Maureen, next slide. Okay, you guys have seen this before. When the EPA first came out with their data on 1,4-dioxane, we mapped it so people could see and have a visual about where it was. But then we started looking at the data, and we saw, like you see all the way there in Montauk Point, like, why does Montauk, which doesn't have any industry, have 6 ppb? Why did some places have 2 and 3 and 4? That wasn't caused by industry. We knew why Hicksville had 33 parts per billion, but we couldn't really figure out why there were all these little detections throughout Long Island. And that's when we started doing research, next slide, and said there has to be an answer for it. We know that 1,4-dioxane, as Dr. Facilis told us, comes from industrial use. We know it's associated with TCA, which is trichloroethylene, and they are used together. We know there's 50 Superfund sites on Long Island, but that didn't explain these very small detections. Next slide. So we started looking into products, and there was one thing all the way back in the early 1980s that talked a little bit about 1,4-dioxane in products. And so we just started thinking about that, saying, wait a minute, if this chemical is in products, and if on Long Island we drink from groundwater, and if in Suffolk County we have 360,000 septic tanks, but who's counting? And all the septics release into the groundwater, and we have a number of what's called sewage package plants, which means small sewage treatment plants that also discharge into water. What if the chemical that was in the products is getting into the groundwater? Since it's not found in nature, it doesn't break down. And even though many believe the solution to pollution is dilution, maybe that doesn't work in this particular case. So that led us on a quest to test personal care products. Next slide. And we found it, unfortunately. So we ended up testing 80 products, and we found what we thought were excessively high levels of 1,4-dioxane in these products. And I mean everyday products, Tide, things like shampoo, Pantene, Head and Shoulders, Drift, which is the laundry soap that pediatricians recommend for your infants, had 10,000 parts per billion in it. Next slide. So here's the dirty dozen. Victoria's Secret took first and second place. We said, now we know Victoria's Secret, she's poisoning us. I'm sure I could get sued for saying that, but I really don't care. We're an activist. Tide had 14,000 ppbs. Now remember, as you look at these numbers, New York State's drinking water standard is 1 ppb. Let me say it again. New York State's drinking water standard is 1 ppb. And when you look at these products going down the drain into the drinking water, 17,000, 16,000, 14,000, 11,000, 10,000. These are common products. Baby magic bath that we put our babies in the tub with. My mom used to use this for us when we were kids. 7,600 parts per billion. Next slide. Some of the products came out clean, though. I want you to know. I hate when I always have to be Debbie Down and give you the bad news. But we called it the Green 15. Products like Aveeno had no detections. Baby Organics, which is a very popular baby organic product, no detections. Burt's Bees, a favorite, no detections. So these are, as you can see from the list, Mrs. Myers, The Honest Company, Downy. Next slide. So this information caused New York State to really look closer at the lack of, at that time, we didn't have a drinking water standard in New York State for 1,4-dioxane. And Yes, Jacqueline, you can definitely get copies of those lists. The New York State Department of Health, in collaboration with the Drinking Water Council of New York State, started to consider drinking water standards for the 3 most common emerging chemicals, PFAS, so PFOA, PFOS, and 1,4-dioxane. In 2020, New York State established the strongest drinking water standard for 1,4-dioxane of anywhere in the nation at 1 ppb. And New York State deserves a lot of credit for that, and we appreciate that. And what we found, though, is that so many of the water suppliers downstate on Long Island had this toxic chemical, and they needed to get this equipment to filter it because, as Dr. Vasilis said, it's not easy to filter and it's expensive. Next slide. So I don't want to bore you with all this data, but it's really not boring. That's why we put it in there. The quantity of PFAS and other toxics, PFOA and PFOS and PFOA, were quite high. And if you look at this, I don't know if you can see it, but right now, if the drinking water standard's 1, which it is, you can see at the time when these deferrals, which means they had 1 more year to come into compliance with the law, were issued. Places like Garden City had 6.9. You can see Hicksville had 8. Jericho Water District has 10 parts per billion. And there were a number of them that had very high PFAS levels as well. Next slide. I don't know why my staff puts this in there. They think they're funny, but this whole thing led to a ban. We wrote legislation and it got passed. Senator Kaminsky and Assemblyman Engelbright sponsored it in the Senate and the Assembly. And it was legislation to ban 1,4-dioxane from common household products. And what it did was it ended up reducing it. So there's a minimum amount established that products are allowed to have in it. This is actually it's a funny picture, but it's also, we were there. It was the last day of the legislature and it was 10:30 at night. And I and my work colleague refused to leave the legislature until they took the bill up in the Assembly and passed it. So at 10:30 at night, they finally passed it in the Assembly, and the Senate had already previously passed it, and the governor did sign it. Next slide. So the ban went into effect this year. That's what the Newsday article is about today. And it puts limits on 1,4-dioxane in common products. January of this year, the limit for 1,4-dioxane is 2,000 ppbs. Next year, it goes down to 1,000 ppbs. There is a clause in the law that allows for certain products to get exemptions just for a year, or deferral is probably the better term to use. A deferral for 1 year. They can also apply for a deferral a second time for another year. That means by the year 2025, anybody that got a deferral at the beginning of this year must be in compliance with the legislation. So, next one. How is that deferral program going? Well, that's what today's article is about. It's a little bit shocking. Here's the different products. And for instance, Procter & Gamble, they have 418 products that got deferrals. That's a lot. The Body Shop, so disappointed and hurt by this, has 100 different products on the list that got deferrals. L'Oreal, 86 different products, and so on and so forth, as you can see there. Next slide. In total, 1,442 products are being deferred from having to comply with the legislation this year. And some of them were crazy. I mean, honestly, I never heard of this first one here, the liquid detergent, but it has in it, are you sitting down, everyone? This is why our groundwater is so contaminated. 129,000 ppbs when the drinking water standard is 1. The question remains, how does that even impact it if it's coming in contact with your skin? There's a toilet bowl cleaner, 75,000 ppbs. Hardwood floor cleaner, almost 100,000 ppbs. That's a lot of 1,4-dioxane out there going down the drain. Next slide. But then there are these products that come in contact with you and I and your skin. Now, my colleague, Maureen, thinks she's very funny because she put on there Philosophy Amazing Grace Shower Gel. And I always fell off my chair when I saw this on the list of exemptions because I've been using this product for a decade. It's in my shower. So this is how I think we understand, when we understand these products are literally in our bath, in our shower, under our sink every single day. So Paul Mitchell, that particular shampoo, 35,000 ppbs. This body wash here, 24,000. The shower gel that Adrian uses, 6,000 ppbs. What is the impact of using these products more than one per day, right? Because you might wash your hair, use a bath shell, stick your hand in the dish soap, put the kid in the bathtub. So there is a combination of contact of these different products each and every day. So what is the impact of that dermal contact? We don't know. We've looked high and low in the scientific literature. The only thing we could find is in the European Union, they have an advisory, I guess you would call it advisory recommendation, that you should not be exposed to more than 10,000 ppbs per day of 1,4-dioxane from dermal, which means skin exposure. Well, using Paul Mitchell shampoo gives you 3.5 times that advisory. Where does that leave us? We don't know. Next slide. Again, just some more products. You got your Dead Sea natural shower gel. Guess it's not so natural since we know that 1,4-dioxane is not found in nature. And it didn't come from the Dead Sea, but it's in there. Next one. And just a couple more products. Pantene, Olay, and also Herbal Essence shampoo. We picked these out because we think these are some of the most common products. Actually, we know they are based on market research, and they're all made by Procter & Gamble, and they're all getting deferrals this year. Is that the last slide? Oh, one. We're like really depressing you, and I apologize. So here, and we don't want to leave men out. Here are some men's products here. We have Axe, which we know is very common for men. This is by Unilever. They have 42 different exempt products. And one of the most common body washes too for men is the Suave Refresh, 2,300 ppbs. Next one. And we want to raise with you, we carefully reviewed this list of almost 1,500 products, and we don't see hardly any laundry soaps, which we find very odd because the laundry soaps had the most. For instance, Tide at 14,000 ppbs. They're not on the list asking for a deferral. Does that mean that Tide has reformulated and they now have less than 2,000? I don't know. I guess we'll have to test and find out. What about Draft? They originally had 10,000 ppbs. Are they in compliance? I don't know. We're going to have to test and find out. Next slide. That's our last slide. So that's kind of the history of 1,4-dioxane and also the new report that was just released today on products that still have it and how much do they have. And now here to tell us more about the Yale School of Medicine's program on testing the water and also testing your blood. We're calling this the Dracula campaign because we've asked people for everything. CCE has. We've asked you for signing a petition. We've asked you to make donations, to write letters, to go to hearings, to show up, to write emails. And now we're working with Yale, who's going to ask you for your blood. So let me introduce Dr. Nicole Diesel, also working with Yale. Nicole, it's all yours.
Actually, Nicole.
Yes.
Wait, you're muted, Dr. Vasilis.
Just a small, Nicole, apologies. One of the things based on Andrienne's presentation, 1.4 dioxane is volatile also as well. So with all these products, when you're taking your hot shower, okay, and there is a paper published in an issue that I am editor. One group found out that it can vaporize, so you can inhale it as well. So when we're taking our shower with those shampoos and the temperature is high, we also increase the route of exposure. Nicole, podium is
Thank
yours.
you. Thank you for raising that. I appreciate that.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you so much to the Citizens Campaign for the Environment for this invitation and organizing this event. I'm so pleased to have this opportunity to talk with you all and to be able to work together with this partnership between Yale and CCE, which I think is going to create really high impact, meaningful science to help protect public health. So I'm here to tell you a little bit about our new study. But first, just by way of introduction, my name is Nicole Diesel. I'm a professor at the Yale School of Public Health in the Department of Environmental Health Sciences. And I'm also a graduate of Longwood High School in Middle Island in Suffolk County. I don't know if there are any Longwood Lions here, but
even I didn't know that, Nicole.
No. Well, and I wanted to share that my whole interest in environmental health really started on Long Island. When I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, there was a lot of concern about cancer clusters, particularly breast cancer back then. And my family, my neighbors, we all wondered, is it the pesticides from some of the farmland? Is it PCBs? Is it the above ground power lines? And I was really frustrated by kind of the lack of information and uncertainty about these exposures. And that really motivated me to get my degree in this area and to become an environmental epidemiologist. So I hope we can shed some answers. Adrian presented a really compelling presentation and highlighted a lot of the gaps. So I hope our research can start to fill some of those gaps. So just a little bit more about what I'm studying, and this project. One of the main components is this idea of exposure assessment. So how do people come into contact with these potentially toxic chemicals in their everyday lives? And in particular, I focused on the drinking water pathway and have done some other large drinking water studies trying to understand the quality of drinking water in communities near industrial sites. And then putting it all together, ultimately, a lot of my research looks at whether the people who have greater exposure also are at greater risk of a variety of health problems. And the study that I'm going to be talking about today is mostly focusing on the first two and providing some information to inform conducting a larger health study. But we do have health in our study as well. So I wanted to just share with you a little bit about this idea of exposure assessment, like how do we understand what people are exposed to and how they're coming into contact with it. And there are four main tools in our exposure assessment toolbox. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about each of them. The first one is maps and models. So if we know where you live, we can look at what's around you, where you live, where you spend your time, where you go to school, where you work. So for example, here's a map of the 34 federal Superfund sites on Long Island. There's other state Superfund sites. You can see that that's indicated by the red squares here. So that's one way to try to estimate your likelihood of exposures. We can also do surveys. We can ask you questions about your home, your environment. Now, as Adrian pointed out, we can't really ask you, hey, do you have levels of 1,4-dioxane and other chemicals in your water or your consumer products, right? You won't know because they're not, there's no way for you to know if you have 1,4-dioxane in your consumer products, but we can ask about the brands and types of products you use. Also, if I asked, you know, do you have contaminants in your drinking water? Of course, there's really no way for you to know that unless you've had it tested recently, because many of these chemicals, like 1,4-dioxane, you can't see them, you can't smell them, you can't taste them. So there's really no way to know unless you have recent test results. But we can ask you again about, you know, how much water do you drink? Do you drink bottled water? Do you have some sort of filtration system? Do you have a private well supplying your drinking water, or are you on the municipal water? So there are questions we can ask that can be helpful to estimate exposures. Then the next one, the third tool, is actually collecting our own measurements. So this is a photo from one of my last big drinking water study. You know, we can collect water at your kitchen tap to get a sense for you know, what's in the water that you're drinking and cooking with. And there also are some measurements available from government agencies like the EPA and the state of New York. However, some of this data, you know, is not always when you want it, where you want it. You know, the last sampling campaign that the EPA did was almost 10 years ago now. So, you know, we really need more up-to-date information on measurements. And then the final tool, the fourth tool, are what we call biomarkers. So we can actually collect urine, blood, hair, even teeth, like baby teeth, which I think is fascinating. And
Okay,
measure.
but I just want to clarify, we're not going to ask anybody for their teeth.
No, not in this study, not in this study. No, but baby, and we wouldn't take anybody's teeth. But there are really neat studies of baby teeth. I'll just say, just briefly, like their enamel develops like it's like tree rings, so you can actually trace back kind of what a child was exposed to at different phases of development by looking at the layers of enamel. So I do think that is a really cool technology. But yeah, and the advantage of collecting these biospecimens is that it gives us a picture of what actually got into your body. So if we test the water, you know, that's giving us insights into what's in your drinking water. But something like the blood would also capture what's in the consumer products, you know, and other sources, maybe other exposures you're getting at work or school. So that's why this can give you a more complete picture of your total body burden of different chemicals. Okay, and here's just some more photos from my last studies on drinking water. We wrapped up a big study in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia near oil and gas industrial sites. And just to give you an idea of what this kind of study looks like, you know, we show up at people's homes with all these bottles and collect drinking water from inside the home or outside the home in the rain and all kinds of weather. Sometimes, you know, it's important to bypass any treatment systems we have if we want to understand kind of what the water is that's coming to your home versus what's, you know, passing through your treatment systems. So just here's some studies from our photos from our last study. So now switching gears to talk about this new Superfund Center, as was already described by Dr. Vasilou, we're really focusing on emerging contaminants in drinking water. And the whole goal of this big research center is to improve public health protection from these contaminants in drinking water, with a focus on 1,4-dioxane and other co-occurring contaminants. And we're tackling this with a series of health and engineering studies. Now, you already heard a nice description of the different research projects. So I'll just be really brief here. You know, there's a study looking at sort of the toxicological mechanisms, like how might this chemical lead to cancer? And then the study that I'm leading is the Water and Health Study on Long Island, or the Dracula study. I don't know if I like that name, Adrian, but we'll think about putting that on our flyers. This is to evaluate exposures to 1,4-dioxane and other chemicals in drinking water, and whether or not the levels in the drinking water correspond to levels in the blood, and whether the levels in drinking water and the levels in the blood correlate to some health indicators. So we will be looking at some health indicators as part of this study. And then the other two projects are these really innovative engineering projects where they're trying to better measure 1,4-dioxane and develop treatment devices for this chemical. As it was already said, 1,4-dioxane is challenging to remove. And I think you've already heard a lot about 1,4-dioxane and why we're studying it. So just maybe a little more from the research perspective. This was historically used in these solvents, industrial solvents, but now also has this broader use in all these consumer products like the shampoos and the body washes and food packaging. There is no federal standard, and the state standards are all over the place. So now New York has a new state standard, but it's, this information, the study can help inform, federal standards or other state standards. And as we've already heard, this chemical is widespread. 1,4-dioxane was detectable in drinking water supplies, 1/5 of all of them across the US. And we just really don't have a lot of information or data on this chemical. It's hard to treat. It has been linked to carcinogenic effects. And when it comes to the human health studies, the epidemiology studies, there's very little. To my knowledge, there's only 4 studies, and they're quite old and limited, and they're not really specific to 1,4-dioxane. So all in all, the exposures and health impacts are really poorly understood, and we really hope to, again, provide more information to better understand this chemical so we can reduce people's exposures and risks. So the goals of the water and health study on Long Island are to better understand the quality of drinking water on Long Island over time, how the water quality changes over time, over location and drinking water sources, like if you have a private well or you're on the municipal water, how does that compare? And then also to understand how the levels of 1,4-dioxane and other chemicals in the drinking water correlate to levels of the chemicals in the body through blood measurements and measures of health in blood. So those are our major goals. And we selected Long Island because it has a history of this contamination. This is some more data highlighting that this previous sampling campaign done about 10 years ago now found elevated levels of 1,4-dioxane when considering this cancer guidance level. So this really informed our selection of Long Island as an important study area. So I wanted to tell you a little bit more about what this study visit would entail. We're going to be going to people's homes for this home visit. We estimate it would take about 90 minutes. First, we would get there and tell you all about the study, answer any questions, and make sure you agree to participate. That's called informed consent. That's very important. So we do that first before we can do anything. And then we would interview you, conduct a survey, ask you about your water, how much water you're drinking, some questions about your health, questions about those consumer products that might contain 1,4-dioxane, and a little bit about you, the demographics. We would collect water samples from your kitchen tap and collect blood samples. And what's in it for you if you participate in this study? Well, it doesn't cost anything to be in the study. That's a question we get a lot, but actually we will give you a $20 gift card to thank you and show our appreciation for letting us into your home and giving us your blood sample. And also, very importantly, we'll give you your results. So it might take a little while, but we'll do all the testing and give you a report so you have information. So I think that's a great benefit. And then, you know, another benefit just generally is you're contributing to these data gaps and trying to help us understand more about how people are exposed and what the possible health impacts are. So that's another benefit of the study. So what's the next steps for this study? So we haven't quite launched it yet. You know, we're still in the process of testing and finalizing all the protocols. This chemical can be tricky to work with, and you know, it's just really important we generate very high quality data, you know, that's very reliable when we do this. And so we're planning to initiate enrollment and be out in the field for what we call pilot studies, like a smaller version of the study, just to get started this summer. But I want to point out that we're in it for the long haul here. This is a large project, and we're going to be going out and testing the water over different sampling campaigns to go to different zip codes and different seasons. You know, so we'll be going out multiple times over the next few years. So, you know, there's lots more to come with this study. And because we're still kind of finalizing things, and because we have this, you know, this dialogue, you know, there's a chance to provide input again to the study process to make sure, you know, we're answering the questions that are relevant to the community. So we have a website for the whole Yale Superfund Center, and then I'm sure the Citizens Campaign for the Environment can tell you more. They have a whole database of people who are interested in just getting more information about the whole center. And when we do finally launch the study, we can push out information to you about it if you're interested. Okay, that I think I'm done. And then I want to thank all the many people who are helping contribute to this large study, and NIH for our funding. And then I'm happy to answer questions now.
So let me just say a couple things. I'm getting some private messages. People want to know, will this video, which we are videotaping this, will be available? CC will be posting it on our YouTube channel. Yes, we have a YouTube channel, but also we'll be sending the link out to the participants. So look for that in the next coming couple of days. Give Jordan a little bit of time to do that, and it will come from Jordan Christensen. And so we'll have a link of this presentation, which we will send out to you guys. Also, people have been asking, how do I sign up for the study? So you can see that it will be posted up. Jordan already did this, or somebody did it. Looks like Brian did it. So more information and to sign up, please see the link in the chat there, and that will take you to just fill out a form. And once you fill out that form, you go on the list, and Nicole and her team will follow up with you and talk to you and make the arrangements to do the interview, and we'll proceed from there.
And I'll just clarify that by signing up, you're signing up to get more information. You know, there's no guarantee that we will be able to enroll you. Like, we have to check if you're living in the zip codes we're going to, and you know, if we're going to be in your particular area. But by signing up, you're kind of signing up that you want more information, and we'll be contacting you, you know, for that whole process.
Also, on CC's website, which is citizenscampaign.org, there is in the rotator, you know, you'll see a couple of our campaigns go by. One of the main campaigns is this one. You can click on that link as well, and that will take you to the page to register, in addition to the link if you don't get the link in the chat. So there's lots of ways, or you could just call our office. You could speak to anybody here, Maureen or Jordan or Adrian or Kate, and we'll be happy to take down your information. We're making it as easy as
I want to enhance that, and I said, no matter if you be chosen or not, we want to hear your voices. We want to hear your concerns. This is what we're here for. These projects are not only for the research per se. We're doing the research for public health, as Nicole said very well. Okay, so you are the focus. Okay, so talk to us. talk to Adrienne, talk to Nicole, talk to me, and all the emails, visit web pages. Citizens Campaign has the office right there. I've been there. And so be sure that we are with you, and we want with you. We want you with us.
And if you have any questions right now, just raise your hand and I'll call on you, and then just unmute yourself and chime in. If you don't have any questions, because we were so darn good at the presentations and answering them before you asked, that's okay too. We did have 50 people participating today. If you have any kind of a civic group or another type of group that you would like a presentation for, please let us know, contact CCE, and we'd be happy to arrange one for you at any point in the spring and summer, because we'll be doing this for quite a while. So please let us know, and we're happy to do more outreach, and we're happy to do more education to any particular community. For instance, I gave a talk to the Retired Teachers Association on Friday about this, and it was great. So if you have a constituency like that, please feel free to jump in and ask.
Adrian, it's Lisa Colangelo. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Please ask.
Sorry, I can't find the raise hand button or whatever. I just wanted to find out. So it will be one visit at home and one collection. It won't be multiple, right? There'll be like one time, and not just anybody who signs up. I assume demographically or something, you'll be trying to, or at least geographically, they'll be trying to reach a wide area, Nassau and Suffolk County. Is that why they're going by zip codes? Can anybody answer that?
Yes, as one of the directors of the study, it's Nicole Diesel. I'll answer that. Thank you for the question. Yes, we have a variety of criteria we're trying to meet with our sampling. So for example, we're trying to get a balance of people on private wells as well as municipal water supplies. And by the way, a lot of these criteria are informed directly by Citizens Campaign for the Environment and other community members. Yes, also trying to get a representative sample of the population demographically, looking at people at different proximities to different Superfund sites. So we have a number of criteria. And then to answer your other question, most people would just get one visit, but there is a small sub-study that will be doing some repeated sampling. So that will be a smaller sub-study within the larger study.
And just one follow-up, you said in some cases, you'll be also looking at health indicators or something when you were saying that you'll be looking at drinking water, blood sample. Could you explain better what that means? I assume if somebody has chronic health conditions, but I'd rather you explain what that is.
So we'll be capturing some health indicators through a variety of ways. There's a survey that will ask about some health conditions. And then with the blood sampling, we're going to be looking at, we're doing something called metabolomics, which is really innovative, and it just gives us early markers of biological activity. So they could be associated with like early markers of cancer or liver function or things like that. And then we're also planning to do some liver tests, like clinical liver tests as well.
Okay,
Like
thanks so
free
much.
biological workup here. Anything else, Lisa?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to take up everybody's time. Is this funded by the NIH? Like, will all of this data go into the study funded by the NIH? I'm just trying to figure out, I know it's the first step, but where and how will this data be used?
Well, yes, it is funded by NIHS. The results will be deposited to NIHS as well.
Okay, thanks. So they're funding the entire study? Or is this they're
funding yes, they are funding it. Well, we had some cuts on our original proposal, so that's why Nicole said that we might not reach out to you. We had estimated 700 houses. We had to go to 500 houses. And, but this is it. There were some budget cuts to all funded centers, the 12 centers that were funded in the nation. So, but we don't have any additional funding from anywhere else. This is federal money, this is taxpayers' money, and this is why I was saying we're working for you.
Okay, thank you.
And I just want to say, Lisa, one of the most important criteria for us is to make sure that we get a substantial portion of private well owners engaged in the study as well, because most private well owners never get their well tested, and what you don't know can hurt you. So we do want to see if we can get some of them or many of them to participate in this study. Our goal is 400 to 500 right now. Our goal is 500 participants. So we are hopeful that a number of those will be private well owners.
Great, thanks so much.
Okay, is there one last question? If not, we will have succeeded to doing this on time, which I'm happy to say is new for us. No. Okay, so thank you again, everybody, and thank you to Dr. Vasilis and Dr. Nicole. We appreciate so much your work and your partnership and your concern for Long Island and our drinking water. Thank you for everyone who participated. I see there's a number of reporters on the line. If you have follow-up questions, you have my cell number, and I'll be able to get in contact with, or to be able to get you to get in contact with either Nicole or Vasilis as you may wish. So we will talk to you soon. Thank you so much. And we appreciate everyone writing their thank yous in the chat. So have a great day.
Thank you all. Thank you for your participation. Thank you, Adrienne. Thank your team. Thank you, Nicole. And again, don't hesitate to contact us at any time.
Okay, we'll let
Thank
you
you.
know if more of these are scheduled. Bye.
Bye.